So we just talked to Mark Hatch from Tech Shop.
I interviewed Mark Hatch for my upcoming book. He's such an amazing thinker.
Yeah, he's awesome guy. You know, one of the things that Mark was talking to us about is how capital is less of a factor now in innovation, perhaps, than it's been in a really long time. He was saying, you know, people in my maker spaces are, you know, creating projects for less than it used to cost to do a focus group.
So I think, you know, so first of all, I think what Mark Hatch has kind of opened my mind up to is really why 3D printing and that whole space is so transformational is because it will disrupt existing industries really quickly. So when you look at things like IKEA, the ability to go and scan a piece of furniture with a 3D scanner, which by the way costs $250,
right,
and then to be able to print that thing out means, does IKEA ever need to really sell physical furniture anymore, or can they just sell blueprints that get printed out? Should they actually be in a collaboration place where you can scan a leg of a chair, add that to a blueprint, and then go and print it out? And if you actually look, there's entire new businesses being built around customizing IKEA. I don't know if you've seen any of this stuff where they add different parts to IKEA to make IKEA furniture still affordable but a little more stylish. Anyway,
right.
So that began me thinking about the question that you just asked, which is early stage, fast prototyping and innovation at scale with the collaboration of makers across the, you know, and so one of the things that we are looking at is how do we develop a systemized approach to open innovation, very much like what Quirky did,
right,
but doing that along the lines of, you know, a consumer packaged goods product. So I think there's rich territory. I think there's huge opportunity. The question will be, I think there's rich territory, huge opportunity. The question will be, who's going to actually be able to put together the right approach and move quickly on it?
Right, and you know, and one way to look at that question is, you know, what role do small organizations or not even organizations at all, but distributed, loose kind of networks of talented, creative people, what role do they play, and what role do large organizations, large brands play, you know, in that future ecosystem? And I know it's kind of emerging quickly, so it's maybe a difficult question to ask, but
I don't know the roles that every single person has to play in the ecosystem quite yet, but I think, as with a lot of innovation, you're going to see the smaller, nimbler guys probably at the edges doing things, right, that are going to be kind of the first of its kind, and kind of pushing the envelope there, and then you're going to see some of the bigger guys come in and do it at scale. I personally like to try to operate like, you know, with the heart of a startup, but the scale of, you know, a big organization. So how do we actually be the people who innovate at those edges? But I think on whole, the industry will change because you have innovation at the edge and then you have big organizations to innovate. Very similar to like the green movement. So you look at like a Method. Right. Method comes out, does it, and they build a really good business on it. But when Clorox Greenworks does it, it like changes the world. You know what I'm saying? So that's where I think you're gonna. And so I think the small guys are gonna be kind of the innovators of the process, and then the big guys are gonna come in hopefully quickly and bring it to scale.
Right. And you guys also talked about doing your own startups internally within Mondelez. So tell us a little bit more about that, because you just talked about that on the panel. I was excited by that.
It's crazy. I've never seen anything like it. I honestly, so, you know, we took the 9 startups and we launched pilots with existing startups. Then we challenged ourselves to build our own. We asked the startups that we partnered with to come in and help mentor us in terms of how do you think about creating a startup. So for a week, we went away into an innovation space. We took all the 9 brand teams. They came, and these just announced actually. They came up with 9, you know, actually a bunch of ideas, but we whittled that down to 9 startups. The 9 teams then presented to VCs and us, and they were chosen. The VCs were harsh and tough, as they should be.
Yeah, right.
And we chose 2 amazing ideas, which are now being brought to life in 90 days, incubated with real tech, and now we're actually holding a demo pitch day and pitching them back out to VCs. And if they get funded, then we'll help underwrite some of the funding as well. Because we really wanted to put ourselves through the process and the rigor. So the first one, the big name of the idea is Story.me. So the whole concept is, look, people are really, really, really bad at telling stories on their own. But everybody wants to tell stories. But when given a simple template like Once Upon a Time, people are really, really good at telling stories once they're given formats and models, right?
Right.
So how do you create those, and by the way, there's a ton of tools out there for organizations to tell stories in social, but very few tools aimed at individuals to tell those stories, although every individual wants to tell stories.
Right.
When you look at what Facebook did when they launched their 10-year anniversary, Facebook did the, video, music to your storyline, storytelling. So there's this whole wave, and you see that in Twitter. So what this is exactly that. How do you create structured formats for people to tell stories? Now, there's different verticals that we're going after. The very first one is called Prankster, and so it's prank.me, right? Or sorry, prankster.me. And so it's really about giving people a structured way to actually do pranks online. And so that partially because it came about from a Sour Patch team, and Sour Patch is all about kind of pranking. So that's one. The second one is really the Uberization of sampling. So it's called Beta Box. So the point is there are so many companies that deliver stuff. How do we go to all those companies and begin to use that open space to do sampling? Very much how Fresh Direct drops in sampling products. Well, there's tons of other people that deliver stuff, by the way. So that's open, unused opportunity in space. Right. So how do we, in the same way that Uber, how do we begin to monetize that space? And the reason why we think we can do it quick and at scale is we don't have to walk around with a tin cup asking people for product to sample or getting them to pay for programs.
Now, did I hear you right? 90 days to bring that to market from today?
No, 90 days. They just launched. They launched last week. Big Ad Age article. Catherine Schieffer, Lauren mentioned in there, and so they launched after 90 days of development. But again, pace, operate like a startup, quick, move, think, pivot.
Well, it's phenomenal to see you guys taking that on in such a serious way, and it's kind of strange to those of us who grew up in jobs where we saw projects take months or years to see that kind of acceleration, right? We're kind of living through this thing. It's kind of amazing to see it happen.
Yeah, no, I think speed, pace, the thing I talk to people about all the time is momentum. The most important thing is momentum. I want you to run fast, but more than anything, I just don't want you to stand still. I want you to have momentum, whether it's in your career, whether it's in building your brand, whether it's in an organization, and I think that's the key is momentum.
Right, and it's not just make work, right? It's advancing the project aggressively.
Advancing yourself, advancing the organization, advancing the reputation of that organization.
Right.
And by doing that, you build growth into your market, you build better products, you connect with consumers better, and by the way, you attract better talent.
Yeah.
And this is all a talent game, we all know that.
Right. Bonin Bough, thank you so much.
Thank you, Simon.